What up?
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to quickly take this screen over from you, Joe. How are we looking there?
We're live. Looking great.
Live. All right. Welcome, everyone, to How to Build and Measure a Modern Returns Experience. You've got myself, Alex McEachern, and Joe Vincena here. And we've been with Loop for a couple years now, and that's exciting because it has given us the opportunity to learn best practices from Joe, approaching 500 Shopify brands, some of the
More than
biggest
that now.
brands on Shopify too, and processing 7 million returns and counting. Someone at Loop's going to fact check me on that, but we've seen a lot of returns and we have been working with some of the best brands on Shopify to see what's working. And we're going to share those secrets with you today. Couple of housekeeping things before we get too far into it. The QA is open, so feel free to drop questions as we go. We have some time at the end where we will answer those. And please drop them in as you have them, because we can adjust the length of this to make sure we leave as much time as possible to answer all of your questions. All right, we're calling an audible right away here. We said build and measure. We thought we were going to talk about how to build all of the things that we're all the tactics today, and then go into how to measure it. But we thought it was actually better to start with what to measure so that the tactics that we're giving you make more sense into the strategy that we're painting here. So when we're talking about measure, we're going to go through a couple things here. We want you to be able to walk away saying, what should I be measuring and how am I going to know if my returns policy and my returns experience is successful? And we want to go quickly over how do you compare to others on Shopify in your vertical and brands of your size.
Yeah, and one thing that we've seen with brands that come into Loop or any returns platform for the first time, they get a peek into all the data that's going to be made available to them. Return reasons, refund rate, all of these new data points that you've likely never seen before. And so it's always the first question. If you haven't seen the data yet, you'll see some today. And the first question that comes to mind, how the heck does this stack up to all of my competition? So we're really hoping this gets ahead of one of the main questions you'll have when talking to us.
Absolutely. And for everyone here, in terms of how to measure a return policy in your return process, my guess is everyone here is doing it on one, two, maybe all three of these metrics. Your return rate, what percentage of orders are being returned, how long a member of your team is spending processing and completing each return, and what the cost per return is to your business. So this is what people think they should be looking at. Let's go into these in a little bit more detail. So return rate, this is the big one. Everyone is looking at return rate when they're evaluating their return policy. And is return rate the number one thing to be looking at? Maybe, kind of, sort of. Return rate is good, but it's not giving you a clear enough picture of what you should actually be looking at with your return policy. And that's because return and refund aren't the same thing. Here at Loop, we look at a return as a breakdown of three different types of events. And we call that the return composition. So a lot of people are looking at a return and they're thinking it's a refund. And if I look at it that way, I'm always trying to drive my return rate down. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But when we look at it this way, when we take exchanges and store credit, and we like to group these together to come up with retained revenue rate. So of every return that's coming in, how many of these are you retaining revenue on, keeping a customer with versus refunding that revenue? So retained revenue essentially becomes the inverse of your refund rate.
And what I'll add here is if you are lucky enough to drive your return rate down, by all means, do it. We are not here to tell you not to do that. If you can drive your return rate down, drive it down as low as possible. This might be true if you're a cosmetics brand, electronics brand. It's already really low. Other verticals like apparel and footwear, and you all understand that this is just a fact of life. So instead of just thinking of the returns space as a problem, we're going to focus on how you can turn it into an opportunity. And that's retained revenue.
Absolutely. And when we look at retained revenue rate, we like to focus on exchanges more so than store credit. And the reason we focus here and what a lot of our tactics are going to be focused on driving more exchanges is because the customer is retained and you continue that relationship. So if you think about someone buying something and they don't love it, they're likely not going to tell their friends about it. What are the chances that they're going to come back and make another purchase? But if they're holding something and you allow them to exchange that into a product they absolutely love, that relationship is continuing.
Yeah, we focus on dollars, right? We're going to spend a lot of time showing you the money impact and all that's super important, but don't lose sight of the customer. If you can get a customer in the right product, they're more likely to leave a review. They're more likely to post on social media, more likely to tell a friend, more likely to come back and buy again. So yes, the money is going to be the immediate thing that you'll measure to show it's being successful, but the customer coming back is what's going to turn you into a winning brand.
Exactly. And if you focus on that retained revenue rate in your return, in the composition of your return rate, you're going to see more repeat customers and you're going to see higher customer lifetime value. And a quick plug for The Exchange, which is Loop's podcast. We actually did a full episode with the CFO of Chubbies talking about exactly how he measures and looks at the impact of returns from a financial perspective. So everyone who's here today and everyone who registered, we'll make sure that you get a link to that episode so you can dig into this in even more detail.
And just a quick plug for this episode. It's unique because Chubbies was the first brand to actually help us build Loop. So they've been with us for the long haul, still using us. It's been almost 4 years now. They've had access to this data for 4 years. And in that time have learned how to optimize return rates, how to optimize refund rates. And they're doing it from your perspective, not from the software provider's perspective. So give that a listen.
All right. So retained revenue rate, it is a component of your overall return rate. And what I want everyone to walk away from this with is we use return and refund in the industry pretty synonymously, but it's not, returns are not all refunds. And if you assume that every return is a refund, you're going to assume that return rate is bad. And like we we're saying, you want to drive that down, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And if you're solely focused on driving your return rate down, you end up optimizing for things that are probably going to come at the expense of your customer. So here's an example. If you want a super low return rate, bury it. Don't let anyone find it. Don't let anyone engage with your return policy and your return process. And that's going to drive your return rate down.
And just a plug for the emotional aspect that we all should be aware of when approaching the returns problem. If you think returns bad, it turns into something that you're trying to cast away and get out of your business. And ultimately you have anger toward this problem. And if you think of the customer's perspective, when they're approaching a return, they're disappointed. They had waited 3 days to get this product, open it, it doesn't fit. And then they're angry because they have to go through and find your return policy. So it's actually a really sensitive moment that you shouldn't take lightly and ultimately should be treated with care and excitement and all these positive things.
Absolutely. It is a very vulnerable time for your customer. And that vulnerability can turn into excitement if you handle it the right way, but that vulnerability can turn just as quickly into anger if you're not handling it the right way.
That's right.
All right, Joe, I'm going to let you take these two popular return metrics.
Yeah. Okay. So we always like to start with these anytime a brand comes into Loop because
Joe, can't hear you.
Oh no. How about now? Lost me?
Nope.
Okay. Well, can someone on chat? We can hear him. Tim. Okay. Alex, I'll cover for us. Okay. So good. These are the two metrics that brands most often see and are coming to us wanting to solve. And it always starts from the same place, typically pain, right? So you're a brand, you're out there managing returns, your support team's overwhelmed, your email inboxes are overwhelmed, your customers are complaining, NPS scores are dropping, pain, 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 right? So first thing you need to solve is time. We're not here to tell you not to solve time. We just are here to tell you that time savings is a commodity at this point. Every returns platform you talk to is going to help you save time. And if you shop time, you're talking marginal benefits, a few minutes, a few hours here. So time is important, but not the number one thing. Next bucket is cost. And this is the second thing that you can feel the pain and easily measure even without a returns platform. And primarily this is shipping costs. So you feel the pain of time and you see all these labels going out the door. And you're like, gosh darn it, I've got to drive that cost down as low as possible because returns are a pain in my butt and they're a waste of money. So you've got to shift your thinking here. I'm going to actually just do this live really quickly and pull up a calculator we've been rolling out to our team. And what I want to show you here is what we are sharing with brands. You come in and talk to Loop, you're going to see this. And we're going to walk you through different buckets of ROI that you're going to use to evaluate a returns platform. And so, like I said, time savings, it's the first bucket. It's the first thing that you're going to feel. I need my time back. This is not quite the biggest bucket that you want to focus on. So we'll table this for now. Cost savings, this is the next thing you're going to feel. You see all these shipping labels going out the door. And now what we're going to, the example we're going to use is a brand that does 10,000 returns. This is about a $5 million brand. So to put this in perspective on value, if you have 10,000 returns in a year and a $10 average shipping cost, you have a $100,000 shipping problem. And I'm not here to tell you that not to fix it, but let's put it in perspective. $100,000 shipping problem. If your shipping labels were free, you'd save 100 grand. when you talk to Loop, we work to open brands' eyes to this bucket and this problem. If you look at the same return volume with an AOV of $100, and what we see is the industry average refund rate, right? So how many returns coming in? Of those, what are refunds? 80%. Now look at this. If you're a 10,000 return a year brand, you have an $800,000 refunds problem. So now you go back to your team and say, what should we optimize for? $100,000 shipping problem or an $800,000 refunds problem? This is a level of awareness that we're trying to bring to the market. And we hope that you're along for the ride with us as we keep exploring it today.
So with that 80% there, Joe, or that's not 80% of orders are being refunded, correct?
Yeah, so it's a good call out because you measure refund rate as a percentage of total revenue, right? So return rate. So your return rate is 20%. You could break this down and say your refund rate is 15%, but from our perspective, we want to look at your full picture of returns and your return volume, and then slice that up. Of all your returns, how many are refunds? Because then you can start taking action.
We're going to try this again. Joe, can you see what's going on here?
We're full screen and we're live. We're doing it.
AirPods.
Yep.
So yeah, with Joe, what Joe's saying here, like your refund problem is bigger than any shipping cost problem that you're ever going to encounter. And if I was going to summarize like how to measure the effectiveness of your return policy, your returns process, it's return rate. And more specifically, it's getting into the return composition. So yes, we want to be looking at return rate, but ultimately we want to be driving retained revenue rate up, and we want to be driving our refund rate down. Now, we're going to go over a couple of industry benchmarks here. And I know a lot of you are actually here because you've already grabbed this report that we put together. So we're going to kind of fly through this and go over the high level biggest impact. But if you want to get a copy of this, just go to loopreturns.com. It's in the header. You can grab this for yourself and really dig into the details. So let's start with what we're seeing. So with what Joe is showing there with an 80% refund rate, we hear that a lot. When brands are coming to Loop, they look at the return composition and 80% of it's being refunded and only 20% of it's being retained. So we took a look at all of the brands on Loop to see what was going on. And we found a 19% return rate across all of our brands. And instead of an 80% refund rate, we're seeing a 60% refund rate, and we're retaining revenue on 40% of those returns. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, what about for me specifically, for the size of my brand, for the vertical that I'm in? So we're going to dig a little bit into that. And this is showing what we're seeing for return rate, refund rate, exchange rate across different sizes of brands that work with Loop, all the way from that $100,000 start new store up to the $50 million brand. And Joe, is there anything about this table that kind of jumps off the page for you?
Yeah, I got to call this out anytime a brand sees this, because what we're seeing on Shopify is rapid growth, especially in 2020. The pandemic hits, everyone's skyrocketing through these stages very quickly. But if you look at startup, right, this is like our entry level point, and you have a refund rate of 56%. This looks good. A lot of the result of this is a high touch experience. You have more time and bandwidth available. An interesting thing happens with Loop brands when they start moving into the small business and then the mid-market category. You see the refund rate goes up. And so you might be at this point right now where you're rapid growth and all of a sudden you're looking at return metrics and they're getting worse. What's going on? It's totally cool. It's par for the course. You scale up quickly. You have more first-time customers. All of these details impact your data. Now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you look at our average enterprise brand doing 50 million or more, things stabilize. You have more repeat customers coming in and you go back down to the average. So if you're in that middle zone, don't panic. Par for the course. We can still help you get there.
It ends up being kind of like that awkward teenager stage in terms
Absolutely.
of like growing up and learning what's going on. All right, let's dig into some of the vertical specific information here. So apparel. If you look at apparel versus the Loop averages, very similar here. And Joe, this doesn't surprise either of us. We work with a ton of apparel brands. So it makes sense that we're seeing a lot of what we see on average in Loop here. So nothing really to call out specifically here in apparel. We will get into some specific tactics a little bit later on. Where things start to get really interesting is when we start to look at some other verticals. So here's footwear. Return rate up at 35%. Now, we don't know exactly why this is happening, but Joe and I have some assumptions on why this is the case. And if you think about when you're buying shoes versus buying a shirt, if I bought a large, or let's say I bought a medium, it's fitting a little snug, I probably wanted a large, I might be willing to hold on to that and just deal with it. That is not the case with shoes. If a shoe is not feeling right, I am not going to keep it. I'm going to want to return it.
And the one thing to add about footwear is that you ultimately have a very custom foot, right? We're kind of getting in the weeds here, but you might have a wide shoe. You might have, you have your length of your foot, of course, and then you have your arch support. And so when a customer is testing your brand for the first time, they might identify a problem with your shoe that it's a little wide or a little tight. And if you don't capture them on this next exchange, when they're returning the product back to you, you might lose them forever. They're going to peg you as a poor arch support company and they'll never come back. So it's really important that you're jumping on footwear at this moment, the first return.
And a really important call out here is if you look at the return composition here, store credit's really low. So on average, we're seeing, I think it's around 9%. This is down to 3%, and where it's being made up is in exchanges. So when someone has the wrong shoe and they go to return it, they're making a decision on, am I giving this another try right now, or am I taking a refund on this and potentially shopping somewhere else? You don't see in footwear a lot of people taking store credit for a future purchase. It's, I want these shoes right now, I'm exchanging, or this isn't working for me, I'm refunding.
Yep.
Now let's jump to home goods. So home goods, this is an interesting category. Things that are included in here are like bedding, towels, cutlery, anything that's being sold to help you with your home. The one thing that's not included in here is furniture. Obviously, we do not work with any sofa companies. Little hard to run that to the post office. But if we look at this, return rate is really low. And the reason for this is you are not getting those sizing issues that you're seeing in footwear or apparel. So when someone does return, look at the return composition here. You're seeing a lot of refunds and not as many exchanges. Now, this represents a really, really big opportunity for home good brands. Because when someone goes to return, if I can convince them to exchange for something, that's a big win for me, especially if we look at the potential to upsell into something bigger on that return. These brands are generating $3.61 in upsell revenue when they're able to do that. So the big opportunity here is someone might not be going from like a small to a medium, but say they bought some brown towels and they're not really vibing with their bathroom. They can go exchange those for gray towels. And now that they know gray is the color for the bathroom, while they're doing that, they can also grab a gray shower curtain or gray face cloths in order to capitalize on getting into a new product through an exchange. And it's not happening enough in this category right now.
Yeah, it's really not. And if you're an agency listening in, I know we've probably reached out to you and had this conversation directly, but worth another plug. This is where the returns conversation needs to shift a bit, because typically everyone's saying returns, size, variant exchanges. There's 10 platforms on Shopify. But if you're in a home goods category, variant exchanges aren't going to help you. So it's really precise feedback that you can give to a home goods brand to start talking about different product exchanges and at all costs, finding a way to get them into a new product.
Yep. If you don't, it's all going to go into refunds. All right, there's how to measure. In summary, return rate, break it into return composition, focus on retained revenue. Your refund problem and the future value you can get from your customers is a bigger problem to solve than the cost savings you're going to get through time or shipping costs on the labels. Now, let's go into the build component of this. What we want you to take away here is we're going to give you what the best are already doing and how you can steal that and apply it to your brand. And then we're going to go into some specifics on some of those industries we covered there. So tactics that everyone should steal. We're going to focus this around kind of three key aspects. Ease of use for your customer is super important. And a lot of our tactics and strategies are going to focus on that. Your policy is a marketing asset. If we think about future value and that customer experience versus cost savings and time savings, we're saying this is a customer experience, a marketing play, more so than it's a logistics play. Right. And obviously, if we convince you of anything through the first half of this, an exchange is better for you than a refund. So let's start here. 27.8% of shoppers are hesitant to shop with a brand who makes them email to start a return. Joe, does this surprise you at all?
No, it doesn't. And if you walk through this, you've got how many touch points to get to the end result, which is a shipping label, right? But you email Friday at 8:00, your support team's already out having a good time. You finally get back to them Saturday morning, and then the customer's got to fumble through their email. You might have 3, 4, 5 touch points take place over 4 days, and it speaks for itself.
And one thing I hear a lot, and Joe, you probably hear this too, is a lot of brands are saying that they want that personal touch point with the customer when they go to return something. customers aren't thinking that way. We live in an on-demand society. I got Netflix. I can go grab what I want when I want. And think about it from like the buying perspective. Imagine if we made someone reach out to us and like start a conversation in order to buy something. We think that's absolutely ridiculous. So our biggest recommendation here is use a self-serve portal. And like, Joe, I think you agree with me here. Like Loop, whoever, like
Just
this
pick
is
one.
the, yeah,
Just pick one.
This is the experience that you need to create. 28% of people don't want to buy from you if they have to email from you. And the people who are going through your email process right now, they are going to be just as comfortable going through something like this. All right, next point. Your returns policy and process is a marketing asset. 67% of shoppers check your return policy before making a purchase. I just want that to sink in for a second. 2/3 of shoppers are going to look at your return policy before they decide to buy.
It's not a legal document or a contract or a rule book. This is a marketing asset. This is a tool that you can use to help drive growth in your business, not just prevent returns.
Exactly. But unfortunately, a lot of return policy pages I go to look something like this, the dreaded wall of text. So if I am one of those 2/3 of shoppers that wants to get my questions answered before I commit to making a purchase, you don't want me to end up on a page that looks like this, that looks like it was written for a lawyer. What you want to be doing though, is you want to answer very specific questions. So in terms of what you need to show on that return policy page, you need to answer these. How long do I have? And basically what that means is what's your return window? Where do I start? So hopefully it's some sort of self-service portal to actually facilitate that return. How long is it going to take? And how long is it going to take is if I exchange for something, when can I expect that exchanged item to arrive at my door? But even on a refund, let people know how long this is going to take. Think about you buying something, you got a refund. Like how long is it going to take for me to see that appear on my credit card? If I don't know that, I'm always going to be left wondering.
And even if it's long, just set expectations. Expectation setting is everything, at least as a customer that I know. But when you leave me in the dark, fear, uncertainty, doubt, and I'm out.
Vulnerability turns into anger.
That's right.
What will it cost me? Answering this question is how much is return shipping and who is covering it? Or is the brand covering it for me or am I responsible for paying that? And then finally, is there anything that I can't return? So this is a really important one for people who are checking the policy ahead of time because they want to know, hey, if I buy something on sale, can I still return it? Like what is going to make something ineligible for me to exchange it or refund it?
And the one thing I'll add to this section is that you're going to go, if you are a wall of text brand, it's no problem. A lot of them are, but if you're going to condense, focus on these 5 first. These are the first 5 questions that we see brands land on. Let's answer all 5 of these as brief as possible. As you start using return software, you're actually going to find that the software will enforce a lot of this for you. And so we've seen brands take this even further down. So all of that to say, measure feedback. You're going to have a returns policy that's much more condensed than it was before. How are customers responding? Can you go even shorter to make it even more attractive?
All right. So instead of just giving you some questions that you should answer, we want to show you some of our favorites. So Joe, why don't you start us off here?
Okay, I'll flip in. Let's go. All right. My favorite, we're doing it live. My favorite is Brooklinen. Brooklinen is an awesome brand. They sell bed sheets. They're out of Brooklyn. Nice play on words in their name. Just a beautiful brand. They do things the right way. And what I love about their return policy, well, first things first, they have a link in the footer. If you're doubting or questioning where to put it, always put a link in the footer. This is absolutely best practice. If you don't have it here, customers are going to be lost. So link in the footer. And this is their policy page. Now, what's interesting about this is it's 1 paragraph, 2 sentences long. They answer all 5 questions, or the important ones anyway, in 2 sentences, 365 days with a 1-year warranty, right? So it's like a year, already super convenient, and we're making you feel even more comfortable by reinforcing our warranty. And we'll pay for return shipping, right? So that's the first piece. It's brief. The second piece is this choose your own adventure pathway. It's showing you upfront that we have a solution for any of the possible outcomes that you as a customer might run into. You need to exchange, click here. You need a refund, click here. Got a broken product, click here. We'll submit a quality guarantee form directly to our support team. And what's interesting here is you can automate certain aspects of your return policy and build high touch interactions for quality guarantees or the like. So this is my favorite, hands down.
I love that one. Just like on how brief it is
Yep.
is money. I'm going to show my favorite example here. Joe, just confirming you can see this.
We're live. We're in.
We're live. All right, this is Walkie Paws. The reason I love them, first of all, is I'm going to scroll down to the footer here. And yes, there is the text link, but I also have a button here. So I can just click into this button and get to their return policy page. And the reason I love this is, again, it's not as simple and to the point as Brooklinen, but all of those important questions are being answered. Very clear where I can go and start this. And the thing I love is they're actually introducing other products. So,
Huge.
Hey, was your dog's hair too short and the leggings are slipping? Hey, here is the sternum strap to help with that. So they're able to introduce a new product here before actually initiating that exchange or the refund. If we go into their policy, they're just making it really clear, right? Up at the top, exchanges are free. If you're going to return something, it's $6 to send it back. And if we go down even further, hey, damaged products, like you can send that back, or we can ship you some patches to make that work. So I love this return policy because it's not just like, hey, something went wrong, like let's get you into something new. They're giving you other options here. They're making sure that the customer is at the forefront of this experience.
And notice all the product imagery all over it.
Love it.
So not just wall of text, we're now continuing to sell you on this page.
Absolutely. And Joe, I think you got one more example for us.
Yep, I got one more. Okay, so this is Cup. Now, Cup sells intimates, and it's really important that you have a comfortable and reassuring policy when you're selling something as important as intimates. So in their policy page, you come down to the footer. And what I love about this is it just feels good. It's clean. It's actually designed almost like I'm continuing to shop. So I've got nice product imagery, very brief return policy, and they're going directly into the different challenges you might be running into. I want a different size. Let's talk about how we can help. I want a different style. Let's talk about how we can help. And ultimately, starting a return takes you to loop.
Love it.
And we're in.
All right, so I want to restate this again. 67% of shoppers are checking that return policy before making a purchase. So making sure that you're answering all those questions up front so that you reduce the perceived risk of making a purchase. And not just making sure that all of the information is there when they find it. What about if people are looking for this and it's going to help them make a purchase? Why not bring it to the forefront? Right. And that's where the rest of these recommendations come from. So here's Mizzen in Maine. They have free domestic returns and exchanges right up there in the banner. They're making it prominent as soon as you land. If you know people are looking for this and it's going to impact their purchase decision, why not just be upfront about it? We also see a lot of brands actually link from this directly to that page that we showed before, just so people can get all those questions answered right away. And here is my absolute favorite example of this, the Tecovas. This is on the product page, and I've highlighted it here. So if you know people are going to be checking this, and especially in a vertical like footwear, where it's a higher perceived risk purchase, there's a higher likelihood it's not going to fit. Why not just keep making them aware of it right on the product page, right above the description, before I add to cart, like, let me click on this. And when I do click on this, it just brings up a quick modal that goes over just the briefest parts of the return and exchange policy, a couple tips on how to size this the right way. This is just the best example of putting this at the forefront.
And this opens up a whole different world. This is we weren't expecting to go here in this presentation, and I convinced Alex of it late last night, but this is where you actually get a new metric that comes into your returns equation when you're going to think about building a policy, creating all of your rules, and then measuring success, right? When you put a call to action or put a returns link this close to your call to action, you're now talking about conversion rates. And I'm going to hijack the screen and I'm pulling up this calculator again. All right, so I haven't even rolled this out to the team yet, so this is as fresh as a pitch gets, but we've talked about time savings and cost savings, right? We've talked about retained revenue. I'll give this a quick plug as we're passing by. If you have an average of 80% and you drop to our average, 60%, you're gonna save 200 grand. And that's 2,000 more happy customers, okay? So this is all good. All of this has been clear so far. But now we're talking about a return policy that's so good that you promote it on your policy, or sorry, your product pages. And so we work the numbers backward. You got to roll with me here for a bit. A 10,000 return a year company, if you work at a 20% return rate, you likely have around 4 million visitors to your site every year. And so now you're saying, okay, should I charge free shipping on returns, or should I charge and get that $10 back? Let me remind you, if you charge every single customer $10 that comes through the returns process, you're only going to get 100,000 back. So now you say, what should my policy be? Should I charge shipping? Should I not? Should I make a return policy that's so damn good that I want to publish it on my product page? Now watch what happens here. You have an AOV of $100. Of your 4 million visitors, you have a conversion rate of 2%, let's say. What if by offering a free return policy with free shipping, you lift your conversion rate 0.25% by putting it right under the add to cart button? It's a million. It's actually the biggest problem you could possibly solve, is the conversion rate problem. And this is where everything changes. This is where the returns industry gets flipped on its head, because your return policy is not a fear tactic. It is a marketing asset, and it can drive significant gains for your business if you treat it that way.
I know we're doing this live here, Joe, and I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, God.
Can we give everyone here access to this?
We can do that. Yeah, I'll have to make you all a copy. It's yeah, this is obviously not the fanciest tool in the block, but yeah, reach out to us. Reach out to any of us, anyone at Loop that you know, and ask for the return calculator, and we'll get this to you.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to take this back after you hijack that. All right, put it on the product page. Last thing I'm going to recommend here is think about putting this in your ad creative. So I was actually, this ad was served to me on Facebook by Allbirds, and I just grabbed it, and they're talking about free delivery and free returns right up front. Again, if we know people are looking for this to make a purchase decision, why not lead with it? And if you're, I know we got a bunch of agencies on today. If you're an agency and the brand you're working with is hesitant to really open returns up as a marketing asset, here's a way to show value. Start using it on some of the ad creative and just show the effectiveness of leading with this into getting someone onto the site. It is the gateway that's going to open this up to being more open to a return policy and a returns process being a marketing asset.
And there's one theme, like a North Star, that we constantly point brands to when we talk about the return policy in this way, and it's confidence, right? Your return policy exists to make a customer feel confident to buy. And when they find a product they love, they likely feel confident in it, right? So make your customers confident with your return policy. Use it as a tool. The second piece is confidence as a brand, almost like swagger, right? Like, we're so confident in our product that we're going to promote free returns and free shipping in everything we do, because we're so sure that you're going to love it when you get a hold of it. So confidence just starts to seep through, and you shed the fear and all that, uncertainty and doubt that comes through with the old way of doing returns.
We talked a lot about everything we've talked about to now is getting someone to the return. Here is one of our go-to tactics when someone is in the act of returning. And we call this return behavior modifiers. And what these are tactics that you can use to push people to want to take an exchange. So incentivizing that, as well as deterring someone from taking a refund. We call that bonus credit and strategic return shipping fees. And I know Joe's been talking a lot about free return shipping. Strategic is the key word here. We're going to put it in one particular spot.
Yeah, so that's right. I mean, this is the major shift, right? Is that shipping fees, you think of them when you're coming into Loop or coming into the call, you're going to think about shipping as a problem you need to solve. And cost savings is the main thing you want to address. Shipping fees are going to help you recoup cost savings. So now a shipping fee is a cost savings tool, helps me pass costs along to my customers. That's the major shift that has to happen here. One, use your return policy as a marketing asset. Two, shipping fees are only used to influence behavior. If a customer is coming into your returns portal, coming to your site, you use a shipping fee to drive good behavior, drive people to the exchange, and prevent refunds. That's it. Because if you can get one customer with $100 AOV to exchange, it's $100. You'd have to charge 10 customers, other customers, $10 shipping fees to get that back and piss them off along the way. So it's a behavior modifier. I'll throw this back to you, Alex.
All right. So here is bonus credit at work. So this is baseballism. I'm pretty sure they're on the call today. If John's here, John can honestly probably give this entire pitch that we just did by himself. So hit him up for some advice, but this is baseballism. I actually was buying something for Joe. This was a gift for Joe.
Good.
And when I go into the return policy here, think about the psychology of this. I'm presented with two options. I can return this for $32, or I can go shop with the value of this return for $37. I'm much more likely to take that shop now option to get more. And what we're doing here is we're not saying like, hey, here's $5, go take it. We're saying here's $5 that you can apply on top of that $32 to go pick out something brand new. And again, behavior modifier. What we're trying to do here is make that exchange more appealing. Hey, I don't want a new size. Okay, let's go shop for something brand new and we'll give you $5 to do it.
We hear brands often get a little nervous about this idea of giving away free money, right? And it does feel that way to you. It looks like 5 free dollars. But, and you might start to say, well, my margin's are already so tight, like I can't possibly give away $5 more. Well, there are two data points that are not in your favor when approaching this problem. One is that if it's a refund, you lose all of it. So you're actually, what's the saying, Alex? I don't want to take it from you.
Don't step over $1 to save a dime.
Don't step over $1 to save a dime, because if you lose this customer, you're losing $32 and you're going to forget about the $5 that you gave them to keep them. Here's the second piece, the cost of reacquiring this customer. If they go through the refund funnel and they opt out and you then try to reacquire them through Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they're going to be more expensive to acquire and even harder to convince to come back. So this $5 will be the best $5 you ever spent.
And we should have put it in this. I didn't, but we have a full blog post on the estimated true cost of an online refund. It's $102. We'll put that in the follow-up just so you can see where we get to that on the true cost of a refund.
Yes.
All right. The other side of this behavior modifier, the strategic shipping fee. So in that example, I say, no, thanks. I want my money back. All right, now we're presenting another option here. So do you want to take this as store credit and get $66, or do you want this on the original payment method? And this is where Joe was talking about, where you can introduce a shipping fee to change behavior. Again, the psychology here. Am I thinking about buying something in the future? In my gift idea for Joe, am I going to buy him another gift at some point in the future? I might as well keep that extra $10, save it, and make a purchase in the future. But if I'm absolutely sure that I want to refund this, okay, we're giving you that option, but that's where the return shipping fee is going to be added in here. And how does this work? So this is a footwear brand that we work with, and they did an experiment with this actually. So right here you have month 1, month 2, and month 3. And in month 2 and month 3, they introduced that strategic shipping fee. Again, they're only charging that shipping fee on the refund. And this is what they saw. They saw 28% reduction in refunds. Look at where the refund rate's going pre and post this change. And if you think about it, look at where it's going. You're getting a lot more store credit here, which means they're getting to that page, seeing that option, and they're taking that store credit option, which again is retained revenue for you in a future shopping opportunity instead of a refund.
And so this is kind of like the icing on the cake. It pulls us all together. If you are thinking about a shipping fee and your company is thinking about a shipping fee, you're going to go back and talk to leadership and CEOs, founders, whoever, and they're thinking we need to charge shipping to save on shipping. Of course, it's going to be a tough sell, but let us be the wind beneath your wings, the confidence to go through and say, no, listen, we use shipping fees to drive down refunds. That's what you see here. The flip side is we don't offer a shipping fee and we use free returns to drive up our conversion rates. And that's a totally different shift. So just feel confident going headstrong. You will be swimming upstream with 90% of the people in your organization, but we built a business on it. So, and reach out to us if you need support.
And if you grab the value calculator from Joe, you're going to be able to show the impact of focusing on that refund problem rather than the cost recouping. All right. How are we doing for time here, Joe?
We have
41.
Yeah, we've got 3 questions that I think are pretty good. So here's what I think. I think we have all of these tactics we can keep diving into. I would love to answer the 3 questions first. If you're on the call and you have questions that you were thinking about asking, now's the time. We actually care more about interacting and answering the questions on your mind than we do of continuing through our pitch. So we'll answer these 3 and see where we're at. I think that'll get us to maybe 145, 150. We'll make a call.
Let's do that.
Okay. So Larissa, are you able to speak on return destinations? I love how Brooklyn has a policy rule where some of their returns go to a shelter. I'm assuming items that have been opened and unused end up at these locations. We'd love to do the same for our returns. Have unopened items go back to our fulfillment center. Open items go to a nearby shelter. So yes, we weren't planning on talking about this today, but this is a great thing to do for the world, a great thing to do for the shelters that are receiving your product. And a great thing to let customers know that you're doing. You can market this. It's something that you are doing intentionally to make the world a better place. So don't hide it. How do they do that? We have a feature that we weren't expecting to go into today, but there is a pop-up, a question, right? So a customer picks a product, question appears, has this item been worn or washed? And if the answer is yes, all we do is change the address on the return label. So if the answer is no, it hasn't been worn and washed, goes to your central DC. If yes, it's been worn and washed, we send it to whatever address you tell us to, and Brooklyn happens to send it to a homeless shelter.
What else we got here, Joe?
Can you not see the? Oh, you're sharing your screen, aren't you? All right, this is on me.
I am. I can't see the questions. You got to feed them.
This one's tough, but a really, really good question. It's from anonymous attendee. We have one product that we do really well with. Not many products where a customer could exchange for an alternate. Are there best practices around return policies that can decrease the overall percentage of returns without angering customers? I have an idea, Alex. I'm gonna let you chomp on this one first.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, my head goes to strategic return shipping fee, but with one product, it's still difficult because you're giving them store credit and they need to get into something. I guess it really depends on if there's any variation on that one product. Is it like one product with like some color variation or sizing variation to it? If so, then that return shipping fee is going to be a godsend for getting people to come back and like keep that rather than losing it to a refund.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, well, anonymous attendee, if you are still here and can post what vertical you're in, I think it'd be great. My assumption is you're likely
that would definitely help.
Like an electronics category, we sometimes see this where there's like one marquee product that's driving all your business. And sometimes like intimates have like one marquee bra that, in any event, it will depend on your vertical. But what I'll say is this is the one time you might be able to justify inserting a step before the automated returns portal. A simple example I'll run with electronics. If you have one electronics product that is 90% of your sales and you don't really have a great opportunity to exchange, you could put your returns link behind your support team. The reason why you'd want to do this is because of troubleshooting, right? Like a really simple example, maybe the customer just didn't pull the battery strip off the back. You want to get ahead of that. Or maybe there's something they need to test. Like I know with some bras, they have adjustments. I don't wear one, of course, but adjustments and things that you can help coach them through. So you almost want to insert yourself ahead of the process to coach them, not to penalize them or make it more difficult. So in a case like this, where I have one product that's driving my sales, consider sending them to your support team for that reason. Oh, in tech. Okay. And there are not, they're in here. I wasn't even noticing this. In tech, amazing. There are not color variations. Yeah. So I double down. I would consider inserting a person in front to help troubleshoot. Love it. Sam Little. Hello. Thank you for chiming in. That's great. Okay. And then Larissa, another question. How do we get our returns page to have those additional options like Brooklyn has? Do we need a developer? Today, yes. Long-term Loop acknowledges that the return policy page is absolutely part of our product experience. So TBD on how long until we address that. In the meantime, there are a host of agency partners on this call, I imagine, or you know them. They're the best people to start with because they get this, they live it. Otherwise, there are some simple templates that we could share with you. So reach out to your account manager. They can send a couple of examples that might be very easy to implement without a developer.
Yeah, reach out to someone on the Loop team. We can hook you up with an agency to help you build that if that's the route you want to go. We also have a ton of content on how to build, not technically how to build one of these, but like if you want to build an experience like Brooklyn or any of the examples we showed, really, we have kind of like, here's the strategy doc to walk you through that.
Love it. I think that's all we got. So those are the questions. Those are great. Thanks for submitting those. I think we got 15 minutes left, Alex.
All right, let's go back.
All right,
let's talk some industry specifics. So before we jumped on here, Joe and I took a look at the attendee list, and it seemed like the majority of people were in footwear, followed closely by apparel. So we're going to run through just some quick tips that you can use for footwear specifically. So as we mentioned in the benchmark report, exchanges are vital for a footwear brand. When someone's going to return, they're making a decision on a refund or exchange. There isn't really that middle ground of store credit here. So if you're using bonus credit to make that exchange for something more appealing, you are going to encourage more exchanges, and you're going to make sure that more people get into the right product. Also too, with what Joe was saying with like the fit, the way the leather feel, like there's a lot of variables here. And if you're allowing people to exchange into a different product as well, you can make sure that they're going to get into a shoe or the footwear that they absolutely love. Next, reducing the perceived risk. So obviously footwear is a very risky purchase for a shopper. The likelihood that it's not going to fit or it's going to fit wrong is high. So generous return windows here. You really need to drive down that perceived risk. So the thing we see the most often, probably a lot of you hear, is 30 days for a return. And Joe, I know we could probably go on a 15-minute tangent about why 30-day return windows are the standard and whether they're good. But return windows for footwear brands, the majority of the brands that we're working with, they're giving more generous return windows. So we see 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, just making the window bigger so that I have more time to feel this out, or making sure that, oh, if this takes 2 weeks to get here, like, am I going to be stuck with this and only have a week to figure it out and send something back? Just make it seem less risky in everything that you do.
I want to jump in here because one of the thoughts, if you're a footwear brand, that you might be thinking right now is, okay, 60 days, 100 days, that's just more time for them to wear my shoe around, ruin the soles, and then I've got to throw them out, right? Well, there are two things to that. One is the overall fraud rate that we've seen on Loop is less than 5% of all returns. So 7 million all time, less than 5% were intentionally fraudulent and reported by the brand. The second piece is a data point that we've pulled from all of our return volume. It's something like 80% of all returns are actually submitted within the first 14 days. Now I have to find, I know you have the blog, Alex, so I don't know the exact number. It's very high.
That's it. 80% first 14 days.
Totally. And so what this suggests is that the number that you're listing here, how big you make it, is really, again, a marketing asset. It's to make customers feel way more comfortable before they buy because you're giving them more than enough time. But odds are they won't use it.
And finally here, sizing aids, making sure, like in this Takova's example, we have the size guide here. I can click into that. There's a lot of different prompts on making sure that I find the right fit. And Takova's does a really good job of this. When I click in, it's like, hey, you normally buy boots a size smaller. I know I do when I'm buying boots, and Takova's is saying, hey, don't do that. Buy the size that you normally do. We're seeing a lot of other brands start to think of things like augmented reality to help with like what this is going to look like. It doesn't necessarily help with the size, but sizing aids and sizing guides here are very, very important. And what I'll add to that is a continual feedback loop. So with a tool like Loop, you're going to collect return reasons. This is running thin, this is running wide, this is running small. And when you're collecting all that feedback and you see what products that's happening on, it creates this loop. I use all that feedback I got to change my product descriptions, to change my product photography, to change the guides that I have here so that less people are running into that problem. And every single time something new happens, that feedback loop lets me make those adjustments. All right, let's go into apparel. Okay, upsell potential. On-site shopping with return value. So the example I love to use of this is I bought a pair of shorts once and they were shorter shorts and I didn't know how I felt about them. I'm almost always a medium. I buy a medium and I love these shorts, but they're just really tight. So if you allow people to take that return value and shop for other things, you can get people to actually buy more. So I know I love these shorts now. I know I love the way they look. I just know I'm a large. So I'm going to go back and take the mediums and now I'm going to buy 2 larges because I've gotten a better idea of my size. And when you allow for multiple products to be purchased with that value, you're going to get all that upsell opportunity.
And one thing I'll add here is it's a new development, right? To have this idea of customers shopping while they return. We haven't been in that era of e-commerce for very long. But what you're going to find if you have a broad catalog where you're selling pants and shoes and socks and shirts, which many brands are these days, you can actually use this to complete the outfit. It's like, okay, you're going and exchanging for shorts. Awesome. Now you've got a pair of shorts you love. Go get that shirt that you were thinking about. And that type of behavior is where you really start to ramp up upsell revenue. You start to decrease your refund rate. And it's just shopping. And you use the return as a medium to do it.
Absolutely. And this second one here, seasonality. So a lot of apparel brands, they're running a summer collection. They're running an autumn collection. And once that's gone, it's gone. So when someone's going to return something, being able to lean on the store credit more than some of the other verticals here. So, hey, having that strategic shipping fee on the refund, if I go there and I look at store credit, I'm like, maybe something coming up for winter, maybe something coming up for fall is going to be appealing to me. I can hold on to that and shop for something in the future. Apparel is in a very good spot to be using that as a tactic for future sales, a lot more so than a lot of the other verticals.
And one last thing I'd add on this is because another doubt that creeps into people's minds when you're thinking about implementing an exchange platform and you have out of stock scenarios, you almost say, I can't do exchanges because products are going out of stock. Really need to get over that hump, because there are customers who still can find a product that they love. And you'll find in solutions like Loop, we do the best, if I'm biased, but there are ways to address out of stock scenarios automatically. So don't be afraid of low stock or low inventory when approaching the exchanges problem.
Which is tip number 3, account for out of stock products.
Oh, I jumped ahead. You know, I was just so excited to get there. I couldn't wait.
Exactly what Joe said. We have ways to deal with out of stock situations, but when you're allowing people to do different product exchanges, you run into that less, right? So in that example where we're talking about like, hey, this is a fall seasonal run and someone got a medium and they want a small. Hey, that actually isn't being created again. Like, it is out of stock and it's never going to be in stock again. So that person's not able to get into the right size. But when you allow a different product exchange, I can now go from that seasonal shirt into a pair of pants or into a belt or something like that.
See, seasons have stock issues. That's what got me there.
All right. Any other questions come up in there, Joe, while we were talking?
We have no questions left. Love the questions that we did get. And yeah, we've got 5 minutes to kill. So I say we give the time back. I think everyone could use it. If there are any questions, we can sit here. I can turn on some tunes. Otherwise, you know, take the time back. But yeah, the time is yours. So let's just hang it out 5-6 minutes, see what happens. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.
And I guess last plug here is if we have a lot of different people on the record or on the webinar today. We got agencies, we have existing customers of Loop, we have people who are exploring returns platforms for the first time. So if you're an existing customer of Loop, reach out to your account manager to start to implement some of these tactics. It's going to drive your refund rate down and your exchange rate up. If you're an agency, reach out to Joe after this. We can give you some assets to help work with the brands and implement a lot of the tactics we were talking about here today. And if you're a brand that is looking into return solutions, come talk to us. End of the quarter right now. It is a great time to come and talk to the Loop sales team.
Oh, and another plug, if you're an agency listening, on that front, we have a new director of partnership starting on Monday. So really exciting time at Loop. We have someone coming in dedicated just to build out these relationships and help you all learn the same stuff we're covering today. So it's the perfect time to reach out if you're an agency. We had a question come in. Okay. Alex, I'll throw this one to you. Should we see the refund rate continue to decrease if we just recently added Shop Now?
Will you see refund rate decrease if you just recently added Shop Now? Give it some time. It's not going to be an instantaneous thing. You're going to need to let that run for a little bit. So be patient there. I'd say give it at least a couple weeks before you try to evaluate whether that is going well or not.
The most important thing for you to think about too, because Alex is exactly right. Your team's going to get accustomed. Your customers are going to get accustomed. But you're in actually a very fertile part of your development in the return policy game. You can start testing things and get immediate feedback, right? So you can A/B test 2 weeks over 2 weeks over 2 weeks over 2 weeks. Right. So start with nothing. Start with no bonus credit. And I'm sure your account managers have told you this already, but start with no shipping fee, no bonus credit. Turn on shipping fee for the next 2 weeks. Turn on a $5 bonus credit for the following 2 weeks. Turn on a $10 bonus. So you're in like the perfect space to see exactly where that stable level is for your brand.
That's a really good point. When you're just getting started with this, like you have so much ability to test and make sure that what you're doing is having the desired impact. Make sure you're benchmarking everything right now and make that change and see how it's impacting it. All right, Joe, instead of awkwardly sitting here for 3 minutes, either you start juggling or I say we wrap this one up.
Let's wrap it up. Take your time back. This has been awesome.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And again, reach out to someone on Loop. And if you want a copy of that value calculator, reach out to Joe or I. We're going to have to make you a copy of it. So it's a little bit handholdy right now. So make sure you're reaching out to one of us to grab it.
All right. Bye.
All right. Take care, everyone.